time!
I'm Andy Lydon, music curator. I'm also one of the curators responsible for the exhibition in the main building, Punk 1976 to 78. I hope some of you had a chance to go and have a look at it. If you haven't, it runs through to September, so there's plenty of time. And you can go and have a look at it. There's loads of stuff, TV footage, radio interviews, music press, fanzines, records, lots of items from the British Library's collections that you may not realise the British Library collects. Couple of things. There will be a signing session after this conversation, and John Lydon.
How bad they are, and yet they get ferociously angry because they decide they think they're singing like songbirds. That's exactly what it was like. Delicious. And I think it was even in rehearsals, really. It wasn't until the second gig where I actually really heard myself, and I think that was at the it was the Marquee. Yeah, because the main band had monitors, and it's the first time I actually heard myself and felt so deeply ashamed. And the only thing going for me really was the ferocity of the lyrics. I got that angle right. So I had to learn really bloody quickly here and find my own voice, and I did.
Yeah. I do want to come back to the absolute lyrics in a moment, but when you said you didn't think you read it out in that way, singing off
prejudices at all, well, except maybe New Orleans jazz, because it always reminds me of a French traffic jam. No, too Parisian. And certainly, oh, the deliciousness of finding a way of shaping words with music. You know, and my voice kind of somewhat matching Steve Jones's guitar. I mean, he was learning too, but it's the chaotic shambles of all of those different elements, underpinned really beautifully by Paul Cook, I've got to tell you. Timing is his thing. He's just minimalist, but he's the best drummer for absolutely root coring you, at least at that time. And that's how the songs came together. And yet we were very fractured amongst each other because we were trying to get used to the situation of being complete strangers. And the lyrics are not the way I write. I mean, it's a bit hard, isn't it, on some people? You know, I mean, when you get band members going, ooh, you know, songs like Anarchy complaining about the rhyming in it. Pardon, you know, hello. But the reason you incorporated me here is because you can't write and I can. Yeah, Glenn always complains. Well, you have a different aspect of music because it's more kinks, and I love Ray Davies writing, I've got to tell you. Absolutely agree with him on that. But I don't like format. I don't like the verse, chorus thing. I use it sometimes when it's appropriate, but I don't like the limitations of music being categorised in that way. And so it would lead to arguments, but I've got to tell you, them arguments led to even better songs.
Yeah.
Hello.
Was that the real polar?
I mean, we're looking at really vacant, you know, and I'm thinking he's very vacant. And he's thinking he ain't pretty.
Were you the two poles that were pulling in different directions?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, it was always going to be problems with Steve, because he always considered it his band.
Right.
You know, it was QT Jones and the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
It was on a T-shirt a year before. I know, because I bought that T-shirt. One wash, shrunk, fell apart. Vivian's a great designer.
You can see that t-shirt, by the way, in the exhibition. There's original copies of that t-shirt and the other thing, the long-arm t-shirt of that. What drew you to
Oh,
go?
has anybody seen that yet? Or is it open or what? I don't know.
Yeah, it's good.
Is it all right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes these kind of things can go off like too orchestrated, you know? And and a lot of people sometimes get these things wrong because they're trying to imitate chaos.
Right.
You know? Just hire bad people.
But yeah, there's lots of stuff in that original, you know.
Such an oddity
Yeah.
in the dullness of what fashion was then. And King's Road was always being perpetrated as like, oh, that's where it's all at. It was just loads and loads of old rubbish, you know. And I said, well, Topshop comes to mind. It's not good enough. And then they were in this little hovel with no toilet. I know, because I worked there. You know, if your bladder was full, you had to go to the pub. On Saturday, that could be quite an endurance course because of Chelsea round the corner. Johnny's nipples out in Winkle Pickers was a challenge. Just the environment of it all, and just the individuality of her concept of clothing was absolutely thrilling. Absolutely thrilling. And I watched it turn from selling teddy boy gear, because I'm a bit of a Ted myself. My dad was, and that's the true roots of me. And the rebellion of any youth culture has always attracted me. So it would be turning from that into a perv gear, which, you know, gosh, I don't know how I got into that. But I did, I was attracted to it because it's there on sale. And there's always that element, oh, it's dangerous and illegal. Well, I'm having low. You know, this is the transparency that we're capable of. It's so much better than the squalor and the secrecy. Because nothing a human being does is done initially, I don't think, from an evil point of view. Apart from that 1%, we have problems with them, don't we? But the rest of us, why are we laughing at each other and judging each other when there's a beautiful world to share? And me in rubber underwear. Do you know what that stuff does sometimes? Oh my God, when you fart in rubber underwear. It's similar to mouthwash. They haven't provided a spittoon, so we're going to have to swallow. That's very nice. Cheers.
You know, you've got the cliche two Ronnie's punk lyrics. Ash stuff up, but on the dole.
Yeah. Which is very funny, by the way.
Yeah, yours were never like that.
Les Dawson did the best, like, Sex Pistols scenario. Get on the internet, YouTube, check it out. I mean, it's, I can't really remember it too well, but it was something like he had a split screen of him, and then an image of him dressed up as me. And it was good night from me, and then it went to the imagery of me, and it's fuck off to you. Very good TV, and I thought he grabbed it best, the sense of fun of it.
Yeah.
You know, where the rest would just be into polite mockery.
Yeah.
In a fearfully, like, distant way.
Yeah.
You know, please, loud and proud, folks.
Yours were never those kind of lyrics, though, were they? They were never those kind of lyrics. I remember hearing Anarchy for UK the first time as a kid, and for the first line, you said, I thought, what's an antichrist? And then I find out that it's this monster from medieval literature.
Yeah.
You know, or medieval culture. I mean, where's that coming from?
Oh, well. Luton Airport. geometry of history, isn't it? You know, that we've been presented with. And so here I am going, okay, these are the images there that my history lessons are throwing at me. Have some of this back, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just tell it.
Yeah. But it wasn't using the...
Because they don't believe in an antichrist. You know, I've got doubts about Christ, so I mean, how on earth is this anti going to be?
Yeah.
What is anti-rude?
Yeah. But it was shocking. It was, you know, it was a shocking thing to see.
Yes, but it's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
It's how in my head I was thinking that this country's going nowhere.
Yeah.
With ultimate total blandness, and I'm having, like, you know, some serious issues in my head with it.
Yeah.
The school system was telling me I never stood a chance at anything. Why bother? And I was thinking, well, I think I'm a little bit better than that. And I think the class and culture I come from is a hell of a lot smarter than the class system was implying for us at all. At all. And I didn't want to be another bleeding car thief. And I wanted to try and beat this system in the most open and honest way I could. I think I'm doing all right. Nothing in life is easy.
Yeah.
And my biggest advice to all of you is hard work. No matter what it is you're at, hard. Go hard at it. Because you will achieve nothing sitting back being lazy and complaining.
Yeah.
Right? And so making complaints, actual issues. And that's what the Sex Pistols did for me. They gave me that opportunity to totally express how I was feeling. And none of us as a band, you've got to bear this in mind, we weren't thinking we were going to be huge pop stars. We absolutely did not see that ever as a possibility. And so that the doors were there to be completely free, and we kicked them wide open. Nobody wanted us. No clubs wanted to book us. Remember, we were underage too. Yeah. So none of these pubs. But, you know, some law-breaking stuff with no equipment. We had to procure. Yeah.
Lots of quite famous people, I see, remember.
Well, you know, there's a lot of good low-knees out there. and regret that. Right, I've made up for that ever since, really did. But that's how hard it is. And you're there, and there's an entire industry that, you know, from corrupt BBC DJs, which we know now, down to really spoiled, wealthy children, you know, university bands, and, you know, I mean, that's a lot to be up against. And then even bands like the Stones would look down on us, and, you know, and they should have made room, should have accepted us. No, everybody just wanted to oppose us all at once. Yeah. And that actually helped. Because it meant you worked harder, you made your songs better, more tighter, more deliberate. So I picked every single word in my song. I wanted it to mean something. And none more than me, I'll tell you, years and years and years later, those songs have ended up as really predictions and landed well. So, you know, there is no God, but there's definitely a thought process and hard work that works.
But a bit about hard work.
I think think hard about that to get that dead right. It's funny, isn't it? But this is what Johnny does in Rubber Underpants. Well, what it matters because you're trying to represent something that you know that's in there. You know, I'm trying to be accurate about my life, and so I have to tell it like it is, and that's the hardest thing of all, because you put your head in the chopping block the second you do that. And it's something that pop music really never really considered, I don't think, up until the Pistols, was to tell it truthfully, because of the risk that involves.
Yeah.
Bang.
Let me talk about risk for a second, because I was thinking about this a lot. You made your record when I was about 15 or 16, and I used to get my head kicked in on a regular basis for being a punk rocker in Wigan. How much personal...
Didn't have to be a punk rocker for
that.
Let me tell you about them times. Those were hard times, boys and girls. Right? You know, very hard times. And England was a very, very, very violent place. And then there's the football culture in that, there's the gang culture. All of it, no matter what you look like or how you try to avoid it, you would be in trouble at all times. And so, what does a cheeky fucking sod like me do? He dyes his hair the colour of a fucking Brussels sprout. And goes forth. You know, and that was the challenge. You know, and this was even before the Pistols. I'm telling you, you know, I put my neck on the line a lot of times. And I'm not a violent person. But I love the risk. I love the challenge. I love being caught in situations that I thought, all right, there's no chance of survival. and found sometimes, you know, you just have a couple of witty fucking sentences, you can puzzle a mob of 20.
But I mean, I was thinking about, like God Save the Queen now. Now there's a show on telly called The Windsors, which pokes mild fun at the royal family, when it's completely safe to do so. When you made God Save the Queen, it was not safe to do so. You used to
no, very dangerous.
Personal danger.
There you go again, another layer on that.
Yeah. Did you put yourself...
But I didn't think that it was worthy of running away from. No. It's an issue that I had to deal with. We were being asked to be loyal to this, that and the other, but there was no reward in that kind of loyalty. And I have issues with that. You earn my loyalty, but once you've got it, it's forever. And I'll forgive any amount of like discretions or whatever. You're my mate forever, my friend, my family, my culture, my people, my world. But you have to have that inner good-minded, good-spirited core to achieve that. And that's not easily given by me. And I have a hardcore sometimes way of 3 strikes you're out. The one thing I cannot bear is deliberate, selfish lying or jealousy. And I give you, 3 times on that one, and that's no more room for you. You're bad, and I can't help you any longer. I've not done anything here to hurt anybody. There's no real example of that. There's been accusations in the press endlessly. When foul-mouthed, filthy punk stuff doesn't work, they'll come up with some other nonsense angle to try and ruin your reputation. But I think my reputation is very good. Everything I do is always with the heart, spirit and soul of my culture. My world, one globe. Not global village. My mum and dad, they're still in here, alright? They're in here all the time, and they'll tell me openly if I'm off on a wrong one. And that's how it is. God bless us as a species.
When you become, though, when you're young, not much more than a kid, when you become public enemy #1, reviled by the establishment, did you ever think, I'm in trouble here, I'm in danger here, these people could get me?
Oh, yeah, but that's like, for me, that was the reward.
Yeah.
No, I mean, God, to be discussed in Houses of Parliament by them ridiculous fucking idiots. Sure, prove my point. Prove my point. Hello, Tim Partridge, how are you? Where's he now?
Yeah.
Where's Grundy, There he is, just like, stupid drunk. And yet we got the hammering. Hello, Savile, and he's not alone. And I've got to raise an issue about this with you, because I do think Cliff Richards was personally abused here. I think I've seen him as the victim, because they take these things too far, these witch hunts, and they start going on people that really just don't deserve that. No evidence at all. And he's got that smear on it for the rest of his life. That's cruel and spiteful and wicked. And the fact that that police raid on him, done with live TV cameras, while he's out of the country. I mean, that's orchestrated hate, isn't it? So be very, careful of how the system works here. It works sometimes, but it goes too far, and then it victimises every single one of us.
Going back to Britain, which you've got to remember as well, or a very different Britain we were then.
Going back on
No,
for a
no.
minute.
But nowadays, that was a long...
Around the girls in plastic.
Yeah, yeah, that's, I've watched it a million times. You can see that bit, the bit of a moment it starts to go wrong.
Yeah, well, he wants to join in our world of pervy.
Yeah.
And that's fine, Bill. But you're a bit shrivelled.
Is it for a saying though?
No, he was seriously, horribly drunk. And that's very hard to deal with before you go on, because you know you're going to get hell from this. And if you look at that interview properly, I'm deliberately withholding, right? I'm not being full on, like, but he wouldn't have it, and so there it goes. There it goes. And also, you can see the amphetamines in the septic spots. Just something to share. I did like a speed rush then.
Is it fair to say there are some companies that have been complete like music and then after that it comes back?
I'll just be fair with people, that's all I asked for. And that led into a couple of years of every time I do an interview, it would be a battle.
Yeah.
They wanted to tear me down, and so I get smarter and smarter arsey with it. I didn't want it to be that way. I wanted to tell you something important, share a message with you, and it just became, intellectuals, comedians thrown at me, and I'm supposed to be on that level. I'm just, 18, 19, going on. Quite amazing, really. What a learning curve. Yeah. That's what I say, hard work. It's hard work.
Yeah.
And you prepare yourself for it. And read everything you can in life. And here we are in the library. Which to me is heaven. It is. I love libraries. Libraries saved me.
Really, yeah.
I mean, I could read and write at 4. My mum, all of that, it's dealt with in books, but when I came out of the meningitis thing at 7, libraries was the only saving grace for me. That's where I was head after school. School was horrible, horrible. They tried such nasty tricks. You see, I'm left-handed. It's Catholic school. That's the sign of the devil, folks. So, I come out of hospital, I'm sent back to school, and they're telling me, no, you've never been left-handed. But it's this kind of wickedness. And here it is. And again, another challenge, and hard work to find out who I was. Meningitis to me was probably one of the greatest gifts ever given, because I had to really, truly find out who I was, and I did, and to face myself and know that I relied on every single thing told to me by an adult to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but. And those that lied to me when my memories came back proper, they're never going to be in my life. But those that didn't will be forever, ever. That concept of we don't need to lie to each other. This is my driving force. So being in a band like the Sex Pistols really was very easy, because I was fully armoured at that point. Able to take the world on, because I knew who I was inside. What an amazing gift that a disease can let you see who you really are. Rather than blame it on bipolar or whatever. Analyse yourself. That's hard work in its own way, but it's so rewarding to really know that you can wake up in the morning and know that everything he's done the day before. He's not corrupt or selfish.
Johnny, what about Brexit?
Hang on.
How hard, mate?
We'll do some questions.
Well,
again.
firstly, shut your fucking face.
Have a
Don't
go, lads.
yak that shit at me, you dumb cunt.
Love you for that,
Wait your turn and be polite. Because you've paid no attention to this evening at all, have you? What is this all
I've
about?
paid attention
What
all
is
my
this
life,
all
mate.
about, you loudmouth cunt?
mate. Well, to you.
Excellent. I don't like loudmouth in the gallery. Nobody does.
I'm sure you don't, mate.
What you ever done in your life?
Fuck all,
Nothing.
mate. Followed you.
You have a big mouth. There's always one here. You're jealous as fuck, aren't you?
When you, I think the piece was slightly misinterpreted because early on, Steve Johnson gives that quote to Neil Spencer. We're not into music, we're into chaos.
Yeah.
Which is a great quote,
Yeah.
but it takes away from what a great band.
At that time, we weren't really into music because we couldn't really play very well. So this is accurate. It's accurate for that moment. Right. But you know, and then you want it to work well, and then you want the things to expand and be better and better and better. But it's back to the label then, isn't it? Just chaos. Chaos is what sticks.
Yeah. And you were playing a lot. I mean, you were playing kind of almost like guerrilla gigs where you do suburban teacher training colleges. When no,
Yeah.
what was that like? Do you remember them?
Well, that was all that we were allowed to do. Nowhere would have us. What you call the music industry, the promoters, the record labels, no, they did not want things like us.
Yeah.
They challenged the status quo. Things were very, very comfortable as a music industry, and anything that sounded, was, is, or could be different than that was not liked.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so they're very, very, very poisonous atmosphere. I really think about it back then. It really just, it was a constant challenge.
Yeah.
And so you'd have to always be on guard. Always. And think a thing through before you committed. Because it could be so easily misinterpreted.
But it was 40 years just a couple of weeks ago since the famous... I was going to say London and the rest of England.
Oh, punk did wonders, didn't it? Listen, for uniting this as a country, in them days it was impossible really for what would be viewed as filthy cockneys travelling up north. It would be a massive hate mob facing you. And northern bands had to face that when they came south. Well, punk broke that up. Yeah. Totally. Suddenly we were all in this together. And the most important achievement of all was for women.
Right.
For women finally got the opportunity which they earned on their own, let me tell you. It wasn't given to them. So you must understand what women did for themselves here. Took men on stage. Right? And not only that, even were in men bands and men in women bands. And all of this changed the world for us. The idea of women being able to compete in that raw energy zone that's called the stage, which is a terrifying experience, was fantastic. And look at the girl bands, the Slits. I mean, I'll always love Polly. X-Ray Specs, the Rainbow. What were women up to that point but matching hairdos, dresses? Fantastic. And so, let me just say, for me, this was like when Blondie came to town. I thought that was 10 steps backwards, actually. You know, there's another gorgeous bird in, you know, blonde hair. But it wasn't kind of, it didn't have the same bravery as what women in England were doing. Absolutely. Men had to become feminists very, very quickly. And what's the reward? Because we've made the world better, haven't we?
Yeah, you came to Manchester, played that show famously, the 40-odd people were there, go on and change. Well, John Savage, the excellent writer, says about that, I asked him this about this of the week, he said, I said, how important is that gig? He said, that is the making of the modern North.
Yeah.
I mean that's a pretty big claim. But I won't say crimes, you know.
Yeah.
Tony
Wilson would have a different point of view.
Do you remember what the first trips outside of
We
London were like?
united ourselves. My God, as a species called the British. Quite an achievement, I tell you, really. You've got to remember what the times were like then. It was bitter. The divides were bitter, bitter, bitter.
And then, like now, young people were getting in the net, weren't they? It was the young who were suffering the most.
Yeah.
In terms of unemployment and getting blamed quite effectively. A lot of those shows that you did out of London, though, I think fascinating people can't forget about. Huddersfield Fight, remember the Huddersfield Fight?
Yeah,
Yeah. That was like an amazing thing. Can you tell us anything about that?
I have a very, very close affinity to Huddersfield. It's really odd when whenever I tour, it always seems to be centred around Huddersfield. This is a time, you know, the strikes, when Margaret Thatcher was doing her utmost best worst. And unemployment was a serious issue. And low wages, and just the resentment to the concept that normal British people had the right to a union to represent them. And the class divide she was creating because of that. All people wanted was a fair wage. And this is why I'm worried about the Brexit thing. We're going back into now. It's back into this situation of Labour versus Conservative. Those were not good days. Not good days. And so, here we have it. Huddersfield, we can't get a gig anywhere. The firemen are on strike. We kind of hook up and find a club that will let us play. And then we find there's an orphan problem too, because it's, you know, they're not being taken care of. So we do 2 gigs, and it turns out to be now probably historically one of the most important days of my life, because of the combination of events of we're all in this together, let's try and solve it. Who cares about orphans? No one up to that point. Maybe Jimmy Savile. You understand? We did that.
There was a fantastic picture.
We had the most fantastic time with it. We spent every penny we had buying cakes and sweeties and lemonades, just for kids that
You did the show in the afternoon, didn't you?
yeah, the matinee. It was just the kids that weren't given anything. The government wasn't taking care of them. And then in the evening, it's another show for the firemen on strike. And you know, the firemen are very important for us. No one's taking care of that at that time. So, oddly enough, we became very politically significant. And there were other bands like the Clash, but when their political significance really was grabbing slogans out of books by Karl Marx, and, you know, being very, very precious about it. But they weren't actually considering it as on a human level, but on a working class level. Because indeed that's not what they were or are. And I never wanted them to be. I always wanted to hear the middle class point of view, that we can all live in this world together. But they didn't, did they? They pretended to live in council flats. And that broke my heart with them. And that's been my problem with a lot of the punk bands, is that they misrepresent and have the audacity to then dictate to the rest of us and put up punk manifestos and create clans like Class War. I don't want us to be killing each other. That's not punk. That's stupid. So there it is. You know, shout Brexit, fella, but get it right. I'm for unity.
Was there a moment when you started to think, this has been fantastic and we've achieved something, but it's
Just now when you filmed me.
but it's going sour? though, and it's big.
It did. Of course, it went sour. There was that period after the Pistols. I start Pill.
Yeah.
Where suddenly people are accusing me of selling out. Oh, that's not punk. How the fucking can you tell Johnny Rotten what is or is not? And who's leading that kind of like charge against me? And that became a very seriously difficult bunch of years because the record company, of course, were underfunding and using this thing and the press wouldn't support me, not for nothing. Not for nothing. And that whole horrible court case that the Pistols got ourselves caught up in just absolutely like ostracised me and pushed me out. And it shouldn't have been that way at all, because the truth wasn't being listened to here. But I'm me, you know, you can't victimise me. I'm relentless. I'll get through in the end, because the truth actually does win. It takes time, but it will win.
If punk is ending, we're doing some different and challenging things, then what could be more punk than the metal box and flowers of romance?
Oh, I'll tell you what could be more punk than that. Butter! Imagine in life that could ever be thrown at me. Wow, a compromising issue. Oh, would you like to sell some butter, Johnny? And you know what? I argued this, and I'm going to say Mr. Rambo here, he wouldn't have it. I went, no John, take this one on. This will be good. And he was dead right. And it turned out to be the most proper thing, because these people treated us with such respect, which I've never had in this entire world of music up until this point. You know, so that's what a real manager is. You know, I knew I'd have to deal with it. Oh, sell out again nonsense. Sell out what? I'm working class, I eat butter. I'm not selling you a sanitary napkin. Although, as a man, I'll tell you, I found some really good purposes in there. Would you like to know? Sometimes it's hard. No, sometimes on stage, quite literally, you know, you can get the shits. No reason at all. And all the odium in the world isn't working. And you might need to be a pet shop boy. Yeah, all of it. Yeah, all of it, yeah. I've done that all my life, really, as finance Pill. From whatever way I make money, it goes into Pill. Because it's the most important thing I've ever done in my life. Is really, really tell the truth, is Pill. That's my open heart with Public Image. So I tell you everything about me. There's absolutely no secrets in this side of my life. It doesn't have to be very expensive. But it's fine. I mean, it's like, when we did I'm a Celebrity, I mean, there again I was accused of selling out or whatever. Every penny of that went into all manner of weird charities, but mostly orphanages. Now, I could have really done with pocketing that money, and I could have started Pill earlier. But I cannot have Public Image based on anything corrupt at all. It has to be absolutely pure. And there it goes. That's how it is. And yet, I'm a celebrity. The press managed to manoeuvre these ridiculous scenarios into it all. And rubbish, but I thought was a very good situation. It took me 2 years really to agree to it because they kept coming at us. But they turned it into dirt and filth stories, didn't they? You know? All this Jordan nonsense I was suddenly wrapped up in. And that poor ex-Liverpool fatty football player. Razor.
Oh, right.
You know, and he was appalled by this too. And yet there's no way of controlling this beast. You know? I mean, trying to talk to the newspapers, and we found out that they're all interrelated in it. They all have a percentage in these kind of shows. And the stories and the scenarios, they're not having a chance. They're way, way written in advance. And that's the world. An innocent sod like me who just wants to raise some money for charity, found himself in the middle of. And ultimately, though, I haven't been corrupted by it. Because nobody believed that nonsense anyway. And if they do, well, get a life.
When you finished the first incarnation of the Sex Pistols, that's that first page, you ended at the Wimpon Bar in San Francisco with the greatest fella line I ever had, the feeling you've been cheated. And I've often wondered about that. Did you include yourself in that?
Oh, yeah, no, beginning with me.
Yeah, yeah.
Beginning with me.
Yeah.
We're all in this together, my friends, and I knew we were being collared here. You know, I'd had enough, and I wanted you all to know that we should all have enough of that kind of corruption. And that's, unfortunately, Malcolm found himself thinking initially he was in control of these kind of situations. No, man, they just took him to the cleaners. He was very, very naive. And we found ourselves trapped in a world of Rolling Stone, on and on drudgery. And I wasn't going to take it. Malcolm wanted things to wind down in a very soft way. You know, we know this when he ran for mayor, right? You know what I mean? He made the commitment, and then he couldn't quite reach the final curtain. Because he was scared, because at that point he might be judged, and Malcolm was a ferocious coward. And I loved him very much. The rows we'd had were fantastic. But he was a horrible liar. And he got caught out for that, and he wrecked a perfectly brilliant band because there was no place for him in it. And that be the absolute solid truth of the McLaren legacy. It's, so, you know, when his son burns all this stuff next year, it's, you know, burn yourself first, you can. What is his issue? You know, what is he famous for? Lingerie.
I'm not so sure.
You're not, are you? Do anybody know what?
Bow, wow, wow.
I don't know why people think they need to declare things like this. Okay, he doesn't like punk. Duh. You know, I don't like balsa wood. Next year's going to be ferocious.
We'll have some questions from the floor in a minute. Some questions about the difference between John Lydon and Johnny Rotten.
No.
Is Johnny Rotten has become almost like a historical... Not historical.
Johnny Rotten was a great nickname that Steve Jones gave to me the first night he met me. You're rotten. Your teeth are rotten. They're not since. Well, brilliant. I mean, and that's, you know, that's how a nickname begins. And then you get Johnny Wedgwood, you know, and all the other punk bands trying to like grab a name for themselves. And suddenly they're imitating a thing that comes from a situation that was perfectly natural. And suddenly that becomes a cliche of punk. And that's where the tragedy of punk is for me. It's the clicheism. Oh, I can do that. I can have a name like that. Well, you should have in the first place. And if you're not in the first place, well, go out there and think about it and be in the first place in your... And the absurdity of that, and how hard it is. And life's difficult anyway, and you think like, oh my God, career's over, the band's fallen apart, it's the Sex Pistols period, what am I going to do? And there's this clownish behaviour of trying to nick even your nickname off you. Right? I mean, how spiteful can you get, really, when you're down? You know, that's a catastrophic way for an adult to behave to a young person. In a very, very difficult time of my life. And so then, you know, will I remember Malcolm fondly? Yes. Yes, because that's how I am. But I will never forget the reality. And neither should you. And unfortunately, there's a media out there that swung you wrong here. Years and years and years. You know, you've got to understand that this is John. I'm a human being. I've really considered what it is I do. I've never done anything to hurt any single one of you. I've never lied. And you know, I'm only 60, so I'm certainly ain't going to die. But I want to know that's important to me. That the memory of mortality, but again, the culture, don't fucking lie. Don't need to anymore. And yet the liars are what are listened to and continuously perpetrated in the media. That's infuriating.
Let's use that point. So if anybody want to ask John anything, we'll take a few questions from the floor, and then John's going to sign some stuff as well. But
now I can see you.
There you go.
See me.
I don't know how to do this.
Feel me. Touch me. It's one of my favourite blues songs. It's quite hard to sing. Beautiful.
Hello, John.
Hello.
I'm an Italian fan. This
What?
is my
Italian fun?
Italian.
Oh, I'm always Italian fun.
And this is my question. In your book, Anger is No Energy, you mentioned words can be powerful. It's actually verbal grenades. How did you choose the right words to express your anger? So you can
I
produce
really apologise, but
creative energy.
you lost me on sentences in. Can you speak louder and clearer?
I think you saying how
It sounds like you're reading from something. And
Yes.
Yeah, well, talk clear. Talk to me.
Okay.
And we will achieve something.
Okay.
This is not, this is, you know, we're not discussing trawling in the north.
Okay. How did you choose your words for your lyrics?
How do I choose?
your words for your lyrics.
Yes.
A difficult one, I guess.
Well, it's
To create energy.
Well, let me explain what public image is. We explore emotions. And so I'm consistently trying to find a voice for a particular emotion or a mood. This is what musicians and singers do. Not very well, most of them, but I think Pill gets there better because we really spend a lot of time researching the concept of tone in the way we rehearse. And from that, Bruce was very angry at the time. Oh, damn this machine. But for me, I went, I like that. And so we laid down like a track of shoot. And that turned into a song. which is a requiem and means so much to me about my dead father. And in that just broken drum machine, I've found an explanation to all of you of part of my heart and soul and character, and the father that made me is there. The words, yes, many people will find like, fuck you, fuck off, to be offensive, but in working class culture, that's how we amuse each other after a few drinks. You know, the words are innocent because the content is not hateful. And so there it goes. And what a wonderful opportunity. And for me, that's an honour to my dad. I love that song. It makes me cry. And it works live very, very well, but in odd ways, because people think we're just being offensive sometimes in some places. Not at all. It's a compliment and a celebration to my father's energy, his absolute dry sense of humour, which when I was very young was very difficult to deal with because I was the tail end of it. What a wonderful opportunity life is. So there's no such thing as a bad word or a broken instrument. Right? It's just open-mindedness.
Gentlemen, over your shirt, go. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Tell me behind you next, then, sorry.
Okay, alright, cheers. When I was 11, a mate of mine got me into the cinema, like through the back door, to see the Great Rock and Roll Swindle. So I've got fond memories of that whole era. Could you just tell us a few things about that film and just the experience?
I can tell you things like this. How great it is when you're young to break in. It really doesn't matter what films are around. It's got one. You know, the sauciness of youth. It's that there's the reward. I've got nothing to say about the film. I mean, for me, one of the best films I ever broke into was The Battle of Britain. Quebec.
Gentlemen,
That's it.
Hi John, love you. Just want to say but I think there's not really that sort of seems to say anything anymore. I mean, I love Manic Street Preachers. Is there any collaboration you might do, maybe with the Manics or anything like that in the future?
What?
Should do it in Indian accent.
You don't know how well we all know each other. Yeah, there's this terrible thing and I've been trying to point it out for years, and all of us in bands have, where the media has instigated this we're all against each other nonsense, and some bands actually end up believing that. But for me, anybody and everybody that's ever gone to the effort to make a song is my friend. I wouldn't have a record connection without them. And there's some collaborations with other people. I don't go out of my way for that at all. And I've never liked the idea of bands meeting up in a nightclub and jamming. It sounds so 70s jaded, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? That we're all very, very different in the musics we create. Why should we turn it into a blancmange? One of the most best offers I ever had was Kate Bush. And I thought, this is wonderful, because I love her to death. I mean, she's deeply different. And created an entire kind of tone and quality to singing that music's never had to deal with before. And you know, she's turned hysterical into beautiful. It didn't work out. The song she sang it wasn't right. And so I sent one back, and it was about, the content absolutely killed her. It was about saving parrots from the illegal parrot trade. Can you imagine what the chorus would have sounded like? Oh, but I love her. And when she ended up doing that duet with Pete Gabriel. So, you know, that's that scenario. But I love Kate. Oh, my God. Also, you know the theatre she throws into things. It's kind of deeply absurd too. But it's that childlike innocence that makes Kate Bush so damn special. And I hope you see the kid in me. You know, like that. This has always been. If you look through the songs over the years, it's always about don't judge. You know, we're all innocent. We really, really are, and we are back in the Garden of Eden, but for our own victimisation. And I'm not religious.
John, hi. Punk, what's punk to you? Is it a visual thing, or is it something that's innate, that's in you, and is it still in you?
It's something you wouldn't have had without me. It was very weird to me. I mean, within the first 3 months of introducing, like, you know, a style or whatever you want to call it in the Pistols, we get Zandra Rhodes putting out £3,500 dresses with a couple of safety pins on them. That quickly, the rip-off started.
Let's go. This gentleman is incredibly.
See you again in person, John. We were at the Middlesbrough Rock Garden when you were touring as the Spots, and I wrote about it in Punk Fanzine called Stiff that you can see in the exhibition. But the question I wanted, I mean, you talk very, very eloquently and passionately about working class feelings and about locality and about Britishness. I'm wondering, as I understand it, you still live in LA. Why do you live in LA?
I was driven out of this place. Do you not know how many police raids I had to endure? It's almost constant.
Okay.
That's only come out of that part of my history.
I'm not judging you on that, but what I wanted to say was, actually at this particular moment, particularly with Brexit, particularly when a lot of working class communities have been screwed over, and I think they've been sold.
This is exactly.
This
is why the result is because of what it is. Working class culture has been totally screwed.
I totally agree, but I think they've been sold a false.
Been told.
They've been sold a false message.
Well, you don't know us working class people very well then. We don't get told nothing by nobody. We are the great consistent that makes this country tick, regardless of the politics. We are the Brits.
Gentleman there.
I'll be brief. I also love you, John. I loved you the moment. I loved you the moment Lee hit the record on Anakin. Still do. I'd just like you to apologise to my children because ever since they were born, that's all they've heard.
I apologise for your father. We cannot help it, but you know what? He has given you the gift of life, which is the greatest thing. Well done, Daddy.
Thanks, John.
My kids are the future.
They saw you at Brixton.
All together now, we are the world.
They saw you at Brixton. Adam was 9. Adam was 8. Georgia was 9. They saw you. They were up in the seats, and they sort of understood what was going on. It's very noisy. Love you, mate. All the
Are
best.
you all right now? You don't need therapy. Thank you for introducing me to your family. That's really important, really, isn't it? I mean, that's what we're all about. This is it. This is what punk is to me. Expand the family.
I've got a record, 2 records each. I'd like to decide. I don't really do autographs.
You did this.
Sure. Gentlemen, over the microphone already? Gentlemen over the microphone?
Evening, John. Hello.
Now,
John, the Pill Talk has just finished. You talk about working hard.
has it?
You walked to you
No,
walked
it's
to
not.
I'm going to South
No,
America.
let me explain. A tour doesn't end, right? It doesn't. The hard work. I mean, the last night the gig, I thought, oh, I can relax. But I had to go back and do press the next morning. So there is no end. It's a severe workload I take on. And as I say, I love the hard work. But let me tell you, it's very emotionally draining. I mean, right now, I'm not on my full shilling here.
That's what I was going to say.
You know, the lights are on, but nobody's at home. I'm 1 brick short of a load.
Yeah, you talk about
But
working hard, but you work
but I like this. This is such a healthy environment that we can sit and talk to each other. Almost this, again, I don't want to keep driving the working class thing like it's something different. It's like all of us, really. What we want to do is to go out in a pub and have a chat, you know? And that's really the root core of my culture. And listen to the older folk, because if you do not, you have no future at all, ever. The aged tell you everything about yourself. You know, the older the person is that's talking to you, they're telling you what you are about to experience, and you're a fool to turn your nose up at that. And that's actually a calamity, isn't it, with young people these days, that they're so internety. That they're emotionally detached. And we just had this weird, unnecessary, ridiculous voting thing. And yet the youth is still not really genuinely involved. It's such a tragedy. I come from, you know, something where youth were involved in everything. Everything. Student riots, football riots, rioting. You know, let's face it, we were all revolting. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. You must expect your young children to reject and argue and question, or there is no future. Next.
Yeah. There's a lady there that's very keen. And then how much do you have time? Okay. We'll take a few more.
I'm Katie.
Yeah. Hello, that's the good manager.
Hello, Kate.
We talked about the bad one.
Good evening, I'm Katie Carr and I'm a songwriter, a female songwriter. I self-produce all my records. And I'd really just like to say a big thank you to John for inspiring a whole generation of ladies in music. We have some amazing musicians here. We have Jean the Birch from the Raincoats. We have...
Hello! Hello, buddy!
We have Helen McCookery-Burke, and these have been my inspiration.
Do you remember that gig, Fulham Palace Road? The one that went down into a spiral? Do you remember that? It was almost like a Shakespearean theatre, but it was a wooden, like, rickety thing. And the stage was there, but it would go down into a circle in the audience. That was one of the best raincoat gigs I've ever seen in my entire life. So, kissy kissy.
I just wanted to say how very proud I am to be here, and thank you very much for being such a wonderful artistic force, and I wish you many more albums in the future. Thank you very much.
Hi John, I love you too, but much more. Much more.
More than you.
I love you much more than all the others. They're all fake. What do you hear when you listen today to Never Mind the Bollocks? What do you hear? What does it mean to you? And do you ever revisit other albums from that time or that kind of stuff?
So the question is, what do I hear? I hear exactly the same thing you do. A man struggling to tell the truth. Right? And nobody up to that point really bothered. And also to tell you that a lot of the arsehole punk idiots that came out after really fucking annoy me. Because there we are. We're giving you the energy, the power of something. And this very fine lady understood that. And how different we were as bands, which was exactly what I wanted. I did not ever want to hear this continual bunch of rubbish sounding exactly the same at 125 miles an hour. And that's unfortunately, those are the people that wrote the manifesto and declared I was a sellout. I mean, audacity. And I'm not being precocious or spiteful here. I'm telling you, I was offering a world of openness and still am. Right? A world without rules and regulations. Except if you try to break into my house and put a hole in your head. In the nicest way possible.
God bless you, John.
So the one thing I don't take is stealing. You know. And a lot of punk bands stole off us. And you know this. What a wonderful world of creativity we opened up there musically. And those awful bands that the record company sponsored that did such overproduced versions of what we were. You know? Terrible, isn't it? Everything we've ever done has been stolen from us. And yet we're still here and we love each other. They can steal all their life. All them fake pop stars trying to be rastas. And yet we are still a community. And there it is. That's our gift to each other.
Did you ever revisit?
Did
you ever revisit any of the albums from that period?
What is revisit?
Get this thing again.
Yeah, how do you revisit an album?
Sorry, that was a posh word for listen to. Sorry, I forgot my punk roots, sorry. Living in London too long, yeah. Living in manufacturing roles.
It is very good to be able to laugh at each other and ourselves, because we mustn't ever take this too serious, you see, and think that what we've done is so precious and precocious. It's not. We should laugh at each other all the time. That is proper community. That is proper culture. May the road rise, and the end result has been our
It's not fitting on to end. Should we have a couple more? What do you think?
No, I'll have a chat.
All right, there's a lady there, Amanda. We'll just do a couple more. And you know,
Your own, and you had to find your own way back.
Yeah.
And I was, for me, I just thought that's just awful. I mean, I don't, you know, so I would assume it would be very low.
Yeah,
I know, but how did you get back? Okay, I mean, how did you?
Some would say I haven't. I know what you're saying, and I've explained it. It doesn't really matter. That's the kind of spite and contempt that I had to deal with from a manager. It was ridiculous. We left with no money at all, no hotel, nothing, zero, no plane ticket home, and yet one of the manager's best friends, came and said that's not acceptable, and that's the world. So you talk to me about the genius of these people. I mean, I'm a young person. All right.